politics, protests, human rights, justice, equity, community. RaceAware.
What's up, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of RaceAware, the podcast all about American race history and its overall impact on the lives of the marginalized. I'm Dr. Wilise Richey, along with my co-hosts Tony Szynski and Dan Sauber. You don't want to miss any new episodes, so subscribe and follow RaceAware right now. Let's get started. Entrepreneurialism is what builds vibrant local economies and a strong middle class. But ever since major changes in the enforcement of antitrust laws of the Reagan Revolution in 1980, entrepreneurialism has been slowly dying. National chains in your neighborhood know all too well that they're extracting wealth from you and your community. Wealth that will never return. For the larger part of our history, the American dream was to start a small local business, something like maybe a bakery, a grocery store, cleaners, maybe clothing or tailor, a gift shop, theater, restaurant, travel agency, anything that you were talented in could provide a product or service to your community and make a living from. People would start their businesses and then not only run it for the rest of their lives, but make a profit, create well-paying local employment for the folks in their communities, and be able to pass it along to their kids and their grandkids. What happened to this formula?
Well, I think what's happened today is it's still, that sort of thing is still happening. It's just not lasting. They don't go for a lifetime. They don't pass their businesses down to their children's because they're swallowed up by big corporations.
Right, that's one thing too. But think about it this way: children now, because people are always looking to make sure that they have something stable, that small businesses have become quite risky. Okay, so people are going to school to get higher degrees in order to land the big job. Okay, so there is no one to pass it down to. The kids don't want to do that. They don't want to inherit that small business.
That's very true.
And also I would say, too, that it's how you look at your business. So back in the 80s, I had a restaurant. And back then, the going wage for a waiter or waitress was like $1.95 an hour plus tips. We started our crew out at $5 an hour. I had zero turnover. That's unheard of in the restaurant business. My staff loved me and stayed with me. We took care of each other. I also bought locally. I bought my meat products from a local smokehouse, a local farmer. My produce was local. My bakery was local. We tried to keep it within our community. People don't do that today.
Yeah, exactly. Well, part of the reason that people don't do that is when you're on a small scale, you have a tight profit margin.
Very tight.
Okay. When you have conglomerates come in, if you have Tomas selling you tomatoes, okay, and Amazon comes in and they sell you tomatoes for 1 cent on the dollar compared to what Tomas is charging you, you may or may not be forced to use Amazon or choose to use Amazon to improve your profit margin.
Right.
Well, I think, too, a lot of it has to do with the way that big businesses like Amazon conduct the takeovers. It's not enough to want the product that the smaller entrepreneur is developing. They want it all. And if you don't turn it over to them, they develop their own, albeit maybe not as good as the small business, and they want to wipe you out.
Well, Amazon is going to be, we're just practicing right now to start beating up on Amazon because we have an upcoming show that is going to talk about monopolies like Amazon.
Oh, that's right.
So let's go over a little bit of backstory. How did all this even get started? People always think that things just happen overnight, which it really doesn't. And not only is it not just a natural progression of things, but these were things that were crafted to bring certain results for a certain set or group of people. Let's look at Reaganomics. Reaganomics, for those who are not familiar, maybe some of you weren't even around then because it's been a while, but we're still operating essentially under this umbrella. Reaganomics, also called Reaganism, refers to a neoliberal economic policy promoted by the former President Ronald Reagan during the 1980s. These policies are commonly associated with and referred to as supply-side economics, trickle-down economics, or voodoo economics by opponents, while Reagan and his advocates refer to it as the free market economics. Reagan's economic policies had 4 pillars. Number 1, to reduce the growth of government spending. 2, to reduce the federal income tax and capital gains tax. 3, reduce government regulation. And 4, tighten the money supply in order to reduce inflation. All of that, to me, I don't know about you guys, but it doesn't seem like it's balancing anything. It seems a little one-sided.
You know, it's interesting, Will, that back in the 50s and 60s, the tax rate was above 70%, and we still had very wealthy people, and we had a thriving middle class.
Exactly, and things were much more stable.
Yes.
So the results, basically, of this Reaganomics, Reaganomics, believe it or not, is still being debated, for Christ's sake, since the 80s.
It's been 40 years as a proven failure.
And they're still pushing it, okay? So the results basically are that, number 1, the supporters talk about it ends what they call stagflation. So it's like a stagnation in inflation. They just made that up, I guess. What'd you say, Dan?
I've never heard of that.
It's the end of stagflation. Stronger GDP growth and an entrepreneurial revolution in the decades that follow. And 2, critics say that it widens the income gap, what they describe as an atmosphere of greed, reduced economic mobility, and the national debt tripling in the 8 years, and increased and stopped and reversed the post-World War II trend of shrinking the national debt as a percentage of GDP.
Well, I think when we're talking about World War II, we had a huge influx of spending because of World War II. So I think it's really unfair to use the war as a reasoning to say, see, this is why it works or why it doesn't work. I mean, the entire country is focused on the war effort. I wish we had a different marketer.
Oh no, well, they're not making that comparison. They're just saying that it broke that tradition of shrinking the national debt since World War II.
Oh, okay. Then in that case, yes.
Yes, they're not making a comparison because obviously that's not a comparison.
Gotcha.
You know, they're starting off at different points economically. All right. Well, if you are starting or thinking about starting a business of your own, tell your story in the comments. We'd love to hear from you. especially after navigating through all this COVID-19 pandemic. When we get back, from local stores to business flip trends, don't go away. We'll be right back.
We love bringing you the RaceAware podcast content. If you like what you hear, find our podcast valuable, and want to help us keep creating our content, show your support by spreading the word and partnering with us on Patreon for as little as $2.99 a month by going to patreon.com/RaceAware. Partners of the show get access to exclusive benefits such as private access to the RaceAware community, the digital downloads, voter power, free access to the live RaceAware lounge, supporter shoutouts, best of all, free RaceAware merchandise, and so much more. Check us out at patreon.com/RaceAware.
Hey guys, we're back. Thanks for staying with us. It used to be that local companies generally paid well, and along with unions in larger businesses, created the middle class. We remember those days.
We do. Yes. And while we were talking about Reagan and Reaganomics, don't forget he's also famous for busting unions.
Yes, because everything in those pillars, see, that doesn't fit. The unions don't fit into one of the pillars.
Right, definitely.
Right. Today we find entrepreneurs following a very different business model. They start a company and build it as fast as they can so that they can sell it to a corporate giant before they squash them like a bug. Also, we see established giant corporations acquire smaller companies at dizzying rates, whether they do it amicably or in a hostile takeover.
Isn't Mitt Romney famous for the company that he used to have?
Yes.
Go and buy businesses that were basically not doing too well,
Yes.
and then sell them as parts. He'd make millions, and the people who worked for the companies walked away with nothing.
Right. This is what I mean by hostile means, right? So these folks, what they do is basically come in, either they'd find a company that was in trouble, or they would cause that company to have trouble, okay, and then come in as Superman, that they're going to fix it, buy it, merge with it, whatever, and then they continue to sabotage the company, take it apart, like Tony says, whether they're going to sell it as a whole or they're going to disseminate it in parts, all for a profit. I like to call that flipping, because that's what it is. Just like people buy houses to flip and make a profit, this is what these people were doing with actual businesses, large and small.
Well, and I don't want to get on a union rampage, but that's where the unions were and are so valuable. It's the only buffer between the large companies and the so-called companies that want to rip you apart.
Exactly, and that's one of the reasons why we even have, some states have laws against unions. And Florida is a what is it, Tony, no cause
It's a right
state?
to work state.
Oh, okay. Florida is a right to work state, which means that even though it's called right to work, but really that bill is enforcing you don't have a right to work.
The employer has all the power, the employee has none.
Wow.
Right. That's what I was going to say, that you don't have the right to work because your employer can fire you for any which reason. That, in fact, they don't have to have a reason to get rid of you.
Well, I hired and retired under a union plant, and it was one of the biggest unions in our country, the UAW.
Does it still exist?
The UAW still exists. They're still strong. But they were constantly trying to bust us, trying to get our union out. And the union was the only buffer we had. It was our medical benefits. It was our cost of living raises.
Retirement.
Retirement, definitely. And that's what it just seems so wrong. It's like they don't want the middle class worker to get ahead.
No. It you know, when you were talking, all I could see in my head is the scene in Moses where Moses stops a stone from being moved because one of the old women, her robe got stuck under the stone. Oh. And the overseer, he doesn't stop. Moses says, he says, why did you stop the stone? He said, can't you see the old woman is stuck? And the overseer says, if we had to stop the stones for every old woman that falls, we'd never build the city.
Right. Oh, yeah, that was Edward G. Robinson's role.
Right. And
yeah.
so Moses asked him, are you a master builder or a master butcher? But the point is, they don't care about how long you work. That's why the scene was coming in my head, because they had children up to people old age. People literally died even while they were working because they were so old.
Yes.
So if without a union, you may not have retirement. You may have to work until you're 90, 100. And I think that's slowly what I've been saying years and years and years, that I've been saying that is the slow, insidious plan. They keep pushing up the Social Security age. They make it so that the middle class has to spend money rather than save money to secure a secure retirement.
Right.
And
so think about it. We had the Gilded Age, and we had those great pictures of Rockefeller in his open carriage throwing dimes out to the crowds. Meanwhile, kids were working, kids as young as 10 years old, working in sweatshops for 12, 14 hours a day.
Yeah.
And then we had the reformers come in, child laws, they reformed, unions formed, and now today we're going back to that Gilded Age.
Right. Well, the thing is that's what they want to go back to, that kind of time where only a few can live well and the masses support them.
I agree.
On the other side of the break, the future of small businesses and our final thoughts. Don't go away. We'll be right back.
We love bringing you the RaceAware podcast content. If you like what you hear, find our podcast valuable, and want to help us keep creating our content, show your support by spreading the word and partnering with us on Patreon for as little as $2.99 a month by going to patreon.com/RaceAware. Partners of the show get access to exclusive benefits such as private access to the RaceAware community, the digital downloads, voter power, free access to the live RaceAware lounge, supporter shoutouts, best of all, free RaceAware merchandise, and so much more. Check us out at patreon.com/RaceAware.
What kind of updates do we have for today, Tony?
Well, I think we should probably just mention the fact that we are having our second RaceAware Lounge. Our first one was really successful. We had a great mix of people, great conversation, great ideas for future podcasts. So look for upcoming information on our RaceAware Lounge. It's a chance to meet with us. We call in to a telephone number. We just sit back and chat for an hour, hour and a half, get to know each other, and know what each other are thinking. Don't forget we do have our merchandise. That can be found at RaceAware Merch, MERCH.com. And if you like what we're doing and want to help support us, you can join us on patreon.com/RaceAware.
Wow, that's a lot of stuff. I hope they remember it all.
And as a personal aside, and I thought this was really key, since we were talking about Amazon and Jeff Bezos, have you seen the change.org petition?
No, I haven't.
I think they're up to about 100,000 votes on there to not allow Jeff Bezos to re-enter the the atmosphere when he goes up in space.
Talk about immigration law.
Yeah. There's no wall there.
my God, that's so funny.
Right.
Where do I sign?
Yeah.
All right. Well, you know what? The House Small Business Committee reported that 110,000 small businesses had closed permanently during this pandemic. And there's another 7.5 million who are in trouble and facing the same fate. The pandemic forced many businesses to join the digital economies. People who are dragging their feet and not coming into the future, well, everybody kind of had to do it because of the pandemic.
I will say this, though. If you go onto like a site like Etsy, and this is not, I'm not promoting Etsy per se, but there's some great small businesses that do some amazing work on Etsy, and you're basically providing direct support to them. And please do shop locally when you can.
Right, exactly. Okay, so do you really think that small businesses can make a strong comeback and a lasting comeback?
I think it's going to depend upon the business. If it's something that a larger business can't overpower and develop themselves, you might have a chance. But Etsy is trolled by corporations like Amazon every day to check out the products they have.
Yeah.
And as somebody who's worked hospitality for more years than I want to admit to, restaurants are going to have to change their business model. You're going to have to start paying your wait staff, your kitchen staff a decent salary, and if it means you increase the cost of what you charge the customers for food and withhold and no longer have tipping, by all means do that. These people work really hard under really hard conditions.
Right.
And they deserve a living wage.
Exactly. Everybody deserves a living wage.
That's right.
And what's the point of going to work if you can't live off of what you're making?
And sadly, $15 an hour is not really a living wage today.
That's because the minimum wage has been stagnant for over 30 years. I think at this point now we're probably at 40 years.
Was it still $7.25 an hour minimum wage?
I have no idea. Some state it's different. Some states are, I've heard $7.85, almost $8. You know.
Wow.
Yeah, but I'm talking before the $15 push, because some states already have implemented their $15
That's
an
true.
hour. Okay, but the lowest I've heard was $7.10 an hour. I don't remember what state it was, but $7.10 was the lowest that I've heard, and then $7.85 was the highest that I heard. So between that range, and you know who lives on that?
I just kind of question. I know in my family, mom was a stay-at-home mom, dad worked. I don't know if it was the same in your family or in Dan's family, but everybody around me, mom stayed home. And one salary provided.
That's right.
Not today.
And you could do wonders with two salaries. You know what I mean? So
you sure could.
Exactly. So, but it's not like that now. Now, I mean, it's not even now. Maybe 20 years ago, 30 years ago, people were even starting to complain that they had to have a 2-salary household, okay, to live comfortably. And then it shifted to you have to have a 2-salary household, and you're still struggling.
Right.
Then people had the 2-salary household, and they were in debt.
Right. Yep.
And as you keep going, people would either have a bad turn because of their debt, or they started to work multiple jobs. When the job market crashed, now these people were absolutely in financial danger because there wasn't enough jobs to go around. Right?
Right.
And I still say we're going to see a housing bubble burst in the near future too. Yeah. The price of real estate is getting astronomical.
Yeah, astronomical. When we're at the end of a pandemic, we're not even fully operational yet, okay? And housing prices are increasing.
Well, some homeowners that are selling their properties, it's so strong right now that they're refusing to allow the buyer to do inspections.
Well,
seriously.
The thing is, it's like, how desperate can you be that you would take a deal like that? You can't come and see what's wrong. Just, you know what? You don't want me to inspect the house. I'm not going to commit to a 30-year financial commitment, and you've got termites, you've got mold.
Right.
Why would you do that? Why would you agree to that? Especially in Florida.
Well, I know a gentleman who lives in Kansas who was trying to buy a house for his family. He said every time they went to see a house, within 24 hours they told, somebody from California came to pay cash, and therefore the house is off the market. He's like, it took him 3 months to be able to buy a house.
Wow, that's incredible. Well, other things that can help too, whether it's as an individual family unit or in the job market business, is the American Rescue Plan, of course, which is helping working families deliver relief, especially pandemic relief, to working families. Then you have the American Jobs Act, which is basically an investment that will create millions of jobs, help rebuild our country's infrastructure, and help to position the United States in a place to compete with China again. Now, there are other things coming. The infrastructure, it's not finished yet. They're still hashing it out. But the infrastructure bill was supposed to be a comprehensive bill that was going to help small businesses alongside of families and the economy, as well as infrastructure nationally. But they're still talking that. They're still hashing that out, right, guys?
Yeah, there was the Senate came over to Biden. They came up with a agreeable plan for both, but I think there's still things like Wi-Fi in rural America that's still on the fence.
Yeah, of course it is, because somebody like Lindsey Graham doesn't want his people to know what really is going on.
Correct.
Right.
All right, and then the other thing I wanted to quickly mention, we've talked about Amazon. Tony mentioned Etsy. You'll know you've got Uber, you've got something like Yelp, right? These are a type of what's called aggregators. Okay, in a nutshell, it's a model which is also called like an on-demand delivery model or an Uber for X model. Okay, so on-demand, even like something like Netflix, you could probably throw that in there too. And it basically involves organizing an unorganized and populated sector. So like for Uber, it would be taxi service. What's that other one? Captain Obvious with the hotels, right?
Oh, Booking.com or something like that?
Booking.com, right. And providing the service under one brand. So Booking.com doesn't own all the hotels that they have on their site. So what they basically do is they collect the information from the providers, they sign contracts with them, and then sell their services under one brand.
Mm-hmm.
So the offerings are uniform in quality and price, and even though it's offered by the different providers, you still have basically a comparable product line across the board. So the providers themselves, if you had a hotel, you still own your company. Okay, you're still the owner of your product or service. The aggregator basically just helps set a nice marketing arena so that it's a win-win situation. They make money, you make money.
It is interesting. We are going out of town for a very short trip, and we were looking at a hotel in South Florida, and just as a goof, I went to Booking.com. I was able to get the same hotel for about $10 less by using Booking.com than going to the actual hotel website.
Yeah, well, that's the deal. That's the deal. So you can call the hotel and make the reservation and pay the full price. But if you hook up with one of these aggregator model providers, then you're going to save some money. It might not be a lot because that hotel was $10, but another hotel you might just save $2. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
All right, and then the other thing
is that's where they get the seniors in our community, because a lot of people that are of an older age and aren't that familiar with online use, they're not going to go to these websites. They're going to take what's given to them as a price and pay it. Right,
exactly. The old-fashioned way, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
But one thing I think that it might not be a superpower suggestion, but really I think the main thing that small businesses have, local businesses have, is the human touch. The human touch for small businesses is the Midas touch. That's something that large businesses cannot do. I don't feel a human touch when I deal with Amazon. When I deal with Amazon, it's about efficiency. I want that thing here now. But if I have a problem, that's when you start to regret, because the problem is all automated situation. Amazon's the go-between, the vendor. Then you got to contact the vendor, and they have to contact you through the system. That's what's missing with all of these huge companies.
And you can't talk to a person.
You can't talk to a person. You have to go through hell and high. It would be easier for you to walk to the main office of that company than for you to get through all the hit this button, hit that button, and then when you hit a certain button, it hangs up on you because you're trying to actually get a human being, and you can't.
But the sad part is, and this is where that age variance comes in, people my son's age and younger, they don't care about the warm and fuzzy. They don't care about the human touch. They want it when they want it and how they want it. And if that means going online and pressing some buttons, that's what they're going to do. And I hear that all the time.
Right, and that's exactly what my one of the points on this final segment is that entrepreneurs must start building their businesses online. Okay, a lot of people who are just starting, and not just now, but over the years, people test their products and services online before they go to brick and mortar.
Yes.
Okay? But now we're in a position where, because of the pandemic, people realize that, hey, I may not have to get a brick and mortar. Sure. I may not have to go rent a place or build out a restaurant or something like that. And that could also be one of the reasons. It's always cause and effect. The cost of housing or real estate is going up, right? But that could also be an anticipation of knowing that no one is going to be interested in real estate. Because if just look at businesses, right? So if a majority of businesses realize that they've gone a year or better utilizing online, remote ways of people working, customers buying and interacting with them, how many businesses are now, at this moment, making plans to downsize to have more of a remote environment in their business?
That's true.
And Will, as we kind of come to the end of this section, I would just say to people, when you can, shop locally. And if you've not tried a food truck, try a food truck.
Dan, what's your final thought?
My final thoughts is check everything out. Don't look at just the cost, because I did that. And there's more involved in it than just the cost.
Well, my final thought is that this is not a time to build back our economy the way things used to be. We have to seize this moment and reimagine what we can build and rebuild a better new economy.
I like that. Hey, Stan, have you heard about that new podcast called RaceAware?
I have. I never miss it, Ryan.
But have you seen that they have merchandise?
No, I haven't. Is it nice?
Oh, it sure is. There's something for everyone.
Where did you find it?
I found it on patreon.com/RaceAware.
And what do they have?
Oh, my favorite's the stainless steel water bottle, but they've got clothing and other accessories and coffee mugs too.
Do they have the clothing for men and women?
Yes, they do.
Oh, great. I can't wait to check it out.
I'm thinking it's great for birthdays and the upcoming holidays.
Good idea. I think I will.
Here, let's go there and check it out.
Sure, let's go.
We want to thank you guys for spending this time with us on RaceAware. As always, if you found the podcast valuable, please subscribe, share, and leave us a comment. Let us know what you thought about it. Let us know what you want to hear us talk about next. Remember to visit our website. Our website is raceaware.rocks. Until next time, stay safe, informed, and race aware, because truth matters.
We love bringing you the RaceAware podcast content. If you like what you hear, find our podcast valuable, and want to help us keep creating our content, show your support by spreading the word and partnering with us on Patreon for as little as $2.99 a month by going to patreon.com/RaceAware. Partners of the show get access to exclusive benefits such as private access to the RaceAware community, the digital downloads, voter power, free access to the live RaceAware lounge, supporter shoutouts, best of all, free RaceAware merchandise, and so much more. Check us out at patreon.com/RaceAware. Politics, protests, human rights, justice, equity, community. RaceAware.